Give me the quick odds that Kevin McCarthy will be Speaker of the House in 2 weeks.
I'm going to go with 33%. I think there's a large chance, though, it'll end up being like an inanimate object or like Kid Rock or something.
Iron Rod. That's a
Yeah.
Simpsons thing.
I can't believe we've overlooked this week's winner for so very, very long. Sue, a round of applause for this inanimate carbon rod.
Chaos in Congress. Are Democrats actually about to cut a deal to save Kevin McCarthy? Cliff Schecter, longtime Democratic political operative, he wrote ads for Joe Biden that helped get him reelected in 2024. I'm a former congressional staffer and campaign manager, and so we got onto this quick video to talk about what's going to happen now as Matt Gaetz tries to kneecap Kevin McCarthy. Democrats are considering, should they come to McCarthy's aid, or might there be someone else that they want to cut a deal with? And what really is in their best interest? Check it out. In the aftermath of Kevin McCarthy pulling a rabbit out of his hat, now he's incurred the wrath of Matt Gaetz. Ooh, scary. One member, that's all it takes to have a motion to vacate, which would remove Kevin McCarthy. This is a lot of three-dimensional chess going on. In order to remove Kevin McCarthy as Speaker, you need 5 Republican votes. So the question from a Republican standpoint is, okay, then what?
That's never a question for Republicans. That's the problem. They've done so much resentment politics that it's become a collection of just resentments and anger. There's not an agenda there. There's some sort of policy bits here and there. Let's put up a wall. None of that are based on really helping anything. They're based more on like giving the middle finger to various groups of people. They don't ever have an end game. They can throw McCarthy out with absolutely no idea what's on the other side, because that's what crazy far right revolutionaries do. They don't care.
My point is just I don't think they need to worry about that, because once they get rid of McCarthy, they're probably confident that someone will emerge.
Already Don Bacon, who seems to be the spokesman for that more, I won't use the words the press, but the moderates, because they're not completely insane and didn't try to overthrow the election. For the center right and conservatives who aren't MAGA nuts, and there's a coalition of about 30 to 40 of them, he's spoken out and he's said already, he made it clear with that first vote with McCarthy that they're all behind McCarthy, but if it's not McCarthy, he's not voting for somebody from the Freedom Caucus. And if he has to work with Democrats to get the right person in there, he will.
That leads us to the question of the hour. If McCarthy is going to survive, he's probably going to need the Democrats to step in and do this.
He's got to be willing to make concessions. So that's where all of that comes in, which is now basically by doing what he does, by being the destructive agent he is, Gaetz and his buddies, they're throwing the ball into the Democrats' court. Unless they cave, there's nobody the Republicans can elect. The Freedom Caucus will go against any McCarthyite, and any of the Bacon McCarthy people are going to vote against a Freedom Caucus person. So unless somebody caves, which again could happen, they caved in the 15th vote last time, then the Democrats have power. You either get McCarthy to make major concessions about votes he will hold that he does not want to hold, about ending the impeachment inquiry and those kinds of things, or you go and you find one of the half dozen to dozen in a Biden district who's actually been in sort of, who's a leader type like Brian Fitzpatrick in the suburbs of Philly, and you say, want to be Speaker?
Those are the two paths, right? Do a deal with McCarthy, do a deal with someone else.
Maybe go to McCarthy first, and if he's not willing to deal, and say, look, dude, hope you had fun. Hope this is everything you ever dreamt of. 15 votes to get there, the most since the Civil War. You've accomplished nothing. You've been hated by all sides. Do you want 2 more years as Speaker? You'll probably get primaried in your conservative district and be done. Trump will hate you. But if you want 2 more years as Speaker and you want to actually get some things done that you can leave and go to your lobbying firm and brag about, here you go. Here's some things that we can get done together that are in the middle of the spectrum, that are the kinds of things that both sides can support. But for that, you also are going to have to stop doing all this stupid shit. All right. No more. Right now, we're agreeing. Government shutdowns off the table for the future. Debt ceiling off the table for the future. Any impeachment inquiry into Biden is off the table for the future. We have the ability to make demands, and we should. Now, he says no. That's where my Fitzpatrick plan comes in. You got a couple other guys there.
So you're saying go for the other guys as a backup, like you use that as we've got alternatives.
They all want to be Speaker. Deep down, there's so many of them that want that power. And can you imagine if you're Fitzpatrick and you could actually govern in a way that you had a coalition that wasn't completely fucking insane? If you had that 30 or so Republicans in the House that weren't just going to threaten to kick you out every other day, maybe even up to 40 of them. There's 18 Biden districts. There's a bunch of other swing districts where folks, yes, they may get primaried from the right, but it might help some of them to be quite honest with you. They could run as more moderate and maybe win. And so a Fitzpatrick type. And then you bring along, you might not get a few on the far left of the Democratic caucus. You might get a few others who don't do it for whatever reason. But you could probably bring along 80% plus of the Democratic caucus. And if you do that, you bring your 30 to 40 Republicans, you would actually have a governing coalition from the center right.
One of the things we started talking about is don't think that Democrats are a unitary faction here. There are different interests and agendas at play. So from the White House perspective, I think their number one thing is they want calm. They want functionality, because we just did a show on this last week where we were talking to the Navigator pollsters, and they were laying out from their focus grouping and their polling, voters, they just hear noise. What Biden wants is calm functionality. He wants voters going into the 2024 election just thinking good thoughts like
morning in America.
Things are working. Voters will react negatively to is the feeling of chaos, dysfunction. It doesn't matter whose fault it is. Number two is they want to get rid of this impeachment inquiry. It is a gigantic pain, and it is a very personal and painful thing for the president of the United States. So that has got to be done. From the House Dems standpoint, it's a little more complicated. One of the concessions that they probably want is they want a more even distribution of allotments on committee slots.
Sure.
That seems like a way down in the weeds thing.
That would seem like one of the most basic demands of a power sharing agreement.
They want a power sharing agreement. They want more power.
That was the actual term that AOC used. We would discuss a power sharing agreement.
And this is also where you have to think about this from the standpoint of the House Dems political arm, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. I think they are better served to have Kevin McCarthy to kick around. You want Kevin McCarthy to run against.
I agree with you 100% on the House. Absolutely. I think they probably feel like they are better served by just the absolute burn it down chaos, inanity on the other side to be like, do you want that to continue to control the House? Or would you like this? But the one area I'm not sure I agree with you. And again, I think a lot of this is made more difficult by the failure of our media to differentiate between who the dumb and who normal people are. We should be doing that in a much more aggressive way. I get that the people may not be able to tell the difference, but I do think Biden won last time on the dysfunction and insanity of the other side saying, I'm normal. And there's a risk that both sides get blamed for what's going on in the House. But there's also the possibility that what's going on in the House, as many Democrats have begun to do, gets tied to Donald Trump because he's running the whole thing.
So what you're arguing is they don't need Kevin McCarthy as a boogeyman. They've already got Donald Trump as a boogeyman. So they're better off with the functional model of a replacement to Kevin McCarthy, because that goes with the calm functionality. That's better for Biden's theme, and it's better for House
I'm kind of
Democrats.
saying that it could go either way with Biden. Calm could be better, or being able to tie McCarthy in the House to Trump. It's tougher to figure out, whereas I agree with you 100% on the House. For the House, the best thing possible, they want Republicans running things.
Give me the quick odds. Odds that Kevin McCarthy will be Speaker of the House in 2 weeks.
I'm going to go with 33%. I think there's a large chance, though, it'll end up being like an inanimate object or like Kid Rock or something. So just so you know.
Iron Rod. That's a Simpsons thing. Inanimate, right. Iron Rod.
I can't believe we've overlooked this week's winner for so very, very long. We simply could not function without his tireless efforts. So, a round of applause for this inanimate carbon rod.
I think it's much less likely McCarthy will do the right thing. I think he's too scared of Donald Trump. He's too much of a coward. And so I think he will, even though Gaetz hates him, he won't be smart enough to take the deal. And I think somebody else will end up stepping forward.
All right, let's leave it there. We'll be much more on this topic throughout the week on Blue Amp and on Beyond Politics.